Hello, I'm Rick Hertless, founder of His Gospel Power. Thank you for joining with our program as we look into the book of Titus. And as we probably make a few people mad because we are talking about how we are to live as men and women and how we are living as men and women. So we are to, if we're going to get back to the way God would have us to live and to bless the relationships that we have, we need to get back to the way God would have us to live. My family, my wife is submissive. That does not mean she lets me run over her, and I don't try to. But she recognizes at one point in time somebody has to make a decision. And now if she puts her foot down hard enough, I will say, you know what, okay, it's not worth fighting over, we're going to do it. But there's some things that it's like, no, this has to be done, this is what it is, it has to be done, and we're doing it. And so, that's the kind of relationship that we have, which it's really a totally scriptural relationship, because she realizes someone has to make the decision, and God has placed that responsibility on my shoulders. And it is not a responsibility that I take lightly. In fact, it's a responsibility that it impacts the whole family. The entire family, if I make the wrong decision, the rest of the family has to suffer for it. And so it's not anything that I take lightly. But it is a responsibility God has given me. And so, and men, it is your responsibility as well. Ladies, if you're listening to this, it's time that you begin to pray about how your relationship should be. Once again, I'm not saying, men, you should rule your household with a wrought iron fist. That is not what God says. In fact, God says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, is what he says. But he does say, women, that you should respect your husbands. And so, you take both of those things in context, and then you put it with the context of Titus that we're talking about here, where it says, ladies, you should be obedient to your husbands. Now let's talk about the men. Titus 2, verse 6 says, likewise, exhort the young men to be sober-minded, in all things showing yourself to be a pattern of good works, in doctrine, showing integrity, reverence, incorruptibility, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that one who is an opponent may be ashamed, having nothing evil to say about you. So, those are the things, young men, that are placed on your shoulders, and older men as well. Hopefully, many of you older men have learned this. However, we've been sucked into our culture, and so it has been removed from the teaching of men and women and how we are to get along and how we are to love each other. Before we get too much more into the lesson today, I do want to remind you to go to hisgospelpower.org, click on the donate button or the contact us button, and we have a free offer there as well. So if you'll click on the button that says free offer, then you can take a look at that free offer. It is absolutely free, and there is no charge whatsoever. It does not take you to any kind of an upsell. It does offer you the opportunity to donate if you would like to, but it is not necessary in order to receive the free offer. So thank you for supporting our ministry, as this is a ministry that goes around the world. So let's get back into this again. So verse 6, likewise, exhort the young men to be sober-minded. This is supposed to be the older men who are teaching the younger men. Okay? And also, let's bring that down a little bit more. Men, fathers, once your young men reach a certain age, and I'm going to say it's about the age of 12, at that point they should come out from underneath the mother's coattails, and they go up underneath the father, and the father teaches them to be men. And the problem with our society right now is that is no longer happening. In fact, the men are staying under the apron strings or under the apron of their mother until they're 18, 19, 20, even 30 years old. The father never takes it over and teaches them to be men, possibly because those men were never taught to be men either, and they are they're so in touch with their feminine side that they can't be men. So, those are those things that we are seeing in our culture. I am encouraging you and admonishing you that you should be men again. It is time to step out and be men again. We are coming into the time. Well, actually, we are into the time right now when it is time that men must be men for the protection of your families. It is happening right now. Ron Stortle.
Yeah, we really just need to go back, and even my parents' generation, they know this, and I watched them when I was a kid. Just go back and watch family TV shows from back in the 60s. I'm talking like the Andy Griffith Show, Little House on the Prairie, TV shows like that, and how the families operated. I was told Leave It to Beaver was my closest thing to what I was, but that's another story. But look how they operated. Even going back to the foundation of the nation, how was a family? Just look at the way they operate. The kids would go to school, they would come home, the son would go with the father either to the fields, and the daughter would stay at home and help mom do chores. That is how society operated until the early 1900s, I would say, where everybody started crossing roles. And, a lot of it was, World War I, World War II, where the women, you could say, were forced to go to work to support the men fighting wars. Well, if we weren't fighting those wars, we wouldn't have that problem, but that's another story. But it was all contributing factors. Look at what happened in the early 1900s to the 1960s. That, to me, was the major transformation where women left their role out of necessity or just the movements that went on. But look prior to 1900, how the family operated. It is right here in Titus what they were doing. Now, you're going to have the devil's advocate saying, well, it doesn't say in here that women can't go to work. Yeah, but if you look at what it says they should be doing, it wouldn't leave time for work. And that's what a lot of scripture does. You can try to plug in these, well, it doesn't say that, so I can. Yeah, but if you were doing what it said, you wouldn't have time to be doing what it doesn't say.
Right. And of course, when you say go to work, we're not talking, we know it's work to work around the house. But it's a different kind of work that supports the family. Now, the Bible does say God gave the wife to us, the woman to us, as a helpmate. And possibly there could come a time when the woman, especially, if the man is sick or something is wrong, the woman might have to go and help support the family. We're talking about a different scenario. Instead of the scenario that we have now, which is women just want to work so they don't have to take care of the children. I mean, that's you can argue with me all day long if you want to, but what's happening, the women go to work and the kids go to a daycare. And someone else is raising your children in the way that person wants them to grow, not the way you want them to grow. So if you are a godly family, well, number one, I think it could be argued if you're a godly family, you wouldn't be doing it that way. But hey, godly families have bought into the culture as well. But if you're a godly family, you want your children to be taught in godly ways. Well, the godly way would be to not seek to get the 3-story house. It would be to live a quiet life, as Paul says. He said, seek to work with your hands and live the quiet life. Instead, our culture is get just as much as you can get. We don't want just a car. We want a Mercedes. We don't want just a house. We want a mansion. We don't want just a yard. We want an estate. And so all of those things requires either one, everyone to work outside the family separately for money's sake, okay, which is always, if you look at the rich families, they're always fractured. Or it requires the father to be working 24/7, which also fractures the family because then the wife gets mad because she never sees him, but yet she wants all of these things.
And the wife is stuck filling his role with the young men.
Exactly.
And I know we were going to talk about that, but And I did this one time, and I would encourage anybody to do this, whether you will go through with it or not. I took my budget one time, and I looked at everything that is being spent and calculated if my wife wasn't working, what could be taken out of that. And you would be amazed at what your budget would look like if one person stayed home, took care of the kids, got rid of like the daycare you were talking about and a lot of the extracurricular stuff that people pump their kids into to keep them babysat because both parents are working. If one person were to stay at home, and you could do it with either one, with the wife or the husband, I'm just for math's sake. If one person stayed home and you were to eliminate everything that they have to spend money on to sustain their job, and as a result, the kids' lifestyles, you would be amazed at what your budget would look like and how easy it would be to maintain without all that added financial.
Well, and I'm going to take it one step further again. Now, you went ahead and gave them the out. You said if either member, no. If the wife stays home and the man does what he's supposed to be doing, which is work, okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. But,
the reason I said it is because some of the man's expenses they kind of cross. So some things the wife are spending, the man would kind of have to fill the roles, or some of the expenses of the wife, the man would have to take over. So you would look at it as if all expenses were taken out, say the wife stayed home, some of those expenses would cross over to the man that he's doing that she wouldn't, that's why I kind of said that. You'd have to really narrow down.
Then you
the
just
budget.
have to cut those things down.
Yeah.
You have to cut them out.
But that's really what I meant.
I mean, there was a time that my wife was working. And really, our deal when we got married was, you take care of the children. Okay, this is going to sound pretty sexist, but hey, it worked. I said, look, you don't have to work, and I don't have to change any dirty diapers. That was the exact words right there. I said, you don't have to work outside the home, and I don't have to change any dirty diapers. That was the deal. And I did. I worked, and she stayed home, and she nurtured the children, and I never changed. I might have changed one dirty diaper in my life. That's what I'm saying. A lot of women are like, are you kidding me? Well, it's just, that was our deal. I mean, and to me, it sounded like a pretty fair deal, if you ask me. I mean, I went to work every single day, and I made a living, and she stayed at home, and she took care of the children, and I never had to change a dirty diaper. It's like, that just seemed like a pretty fair deal. It's just cut and dry. It's how it was. But at one point in our life, we decided we wanted to put our kids in Christian school, and we did. She thought, well, I need to work to do that, and she did. And really, most of it was like a daycare. Most of it was more of a Christian daycare than anything. We got to looking at the budget one day, and I said, look, after we pay for everything, you are bringing home $50 a month. It's not worth letting someone else raise our children, Christian or otherwise, for $50 a month. And so we stopped that. That only went for a year or two at the most. I don't even know if it was 2 years, but a year maybe at the most. And then we stopped that. And we went back to what we're doing, what we did until the children were basically out of school. Then she wanted to work. That was fine. So all of those things, it's just, if we live, Paul said, 1 Thessalonians 4:11, that we urge you, brethren, that you increase more and more, that you also aspire to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, to work with your own hands, as we commanded you, that you may walk properly toward those who are outside, and that you may lack nothing. And that is not what we're doing today. In fact, I say it all the time. Supposedly, computers were given to us to make our life easier. That was the farce that they sold us way back in the day. Look, you're going to love these computers. You're going to be able to do this, and it's going to give you so much more time. Well, it doesn't. it takes time. It takes away from, because it really separates the family. You got one child over here on this game. You got another child over here on this game. You got maybe the parents and maybe either watching a TV show or off on their own games. Everybody's doing their own thing, or maybe you're working at home instead of going to your office, and it's a proven scenario that if you work from home, you work more than you ever would at your office.
I think you said the most important part, and I believe this was Satan's design. It separates the members of the family so they don't commune with each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where the word communion came from, communing. And it doesn't I don't care how many Christian cartoons, Christian videos, Christian music they listen to, there is nothing that compares to the family sitting down and experiencing the word together.
It is
however
no
you want to
substitute.
do it. Yeah.
It is no, I love my grandchildren, especially my granddaughter is wonderful. I had to go get my grandson from a friend's house last night, and she wants to go with me to get him. She does that all the time. Well, can I go with you? Instead of sitting there on her game or whatever, she wants to get out and experience life. She wants to see the sky. We were talking about the sky on the way over, and she wants to see the fields, and she wants to see the cows and all this. She wants to experience life, and you cannot do that with these computers. They have robbed us. They are robbing us of God's glory, and they are robbing. And that's one reason I'm convinced also that is one reason why people no longer understand or believe Romans 1, because Romans chapter 1 says God put a piece of us through his creation, a piece of himself rather, through his creation into each one of us, but we don't even experience his creation any longer. We experience only the creation of Satan, which is in that computer.
Well, and think one of the other aspects of how Satan has helped encourage this concept. You're already in your home doing these things. I remember back in the day, even in my lifetime, when you didn't have to worry about locking your doors, your blinds were always up, you could leave your windows open and go run to the store. What are we today? We're in basically a little solitary confinement out of the fear of violence.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to leave your windows open, because then people can look in and see what they're going to steal. You can't leave your doors unlocked because people can just walk in and steal it. And then we don't have our windows open because you might forget to close it when you go to bed at night and leave it open for some. So that fear of invasion has basically forced it. Why do we even put windows in houses anymore? Because nobody uses them.
Yeah. I know there's lots of things that are going on today, and we are in the last days. Please go to hisgospelpower.org, click on the donate button or the contact us button. Till next time, I pray you receive his gospel power today.
He died for you. He died for me. From our sin, he set us free. He loved us so, his life he gave. So if we ask, we can be saved. He's calling you, he's calling you. Jesus Christ is calling you. If he's touched your heart and soul, let Jesus make you whole. Come kneel with me and we will pray that all your sin be washed away.